Hi there. I want to make a short video about business and what I'm discovering about life in general. So, I've been listening to the Divine Truth teachings for about 9 years now, and I feel like I'm pretty slow with my intake of truth, but I feel like I am kind of moving along a little bit. Maybe I'm picking up the pace a little bit. um, and I'm seeing how human beings are really, it would seem, the center of the universe. That's how I would put it. I don't know that AJ has ever put it that way, but I've always kind of felt that we are important, and we are not equal to the animals. We're not equal to the rocks or the ether. We are something apart. That we are inhabiting this space, and we are very important. And yeah, and and now I know or believe that God is outside this space that we occupy. But in this space, with its own laws and rules that govern everything that happens here, um, we play a very major role. We play a gigantic role, I might say. And why do I use say that as a prelude to business? Um, it's just to say that what we do, what we think, what we say, not so much what we say, more what we feel and what we do, has a very large effect on everything around us. And that seems to matter to business as well. The market, you might say, if you are into like economies. I took like two classes, you know, in college, two economy classes, so I know something about not economy per se, but what is said about economy. So anyway, what I find interesting and fascinating is that we play a large part in what kind of businesses are out there, what businesses offer, what businesses do, um, what businesses are out there. Now, what do I mean by that? Let me go and tell you this quick story. It's not really a story, but it's just so. When I was young, I used to think when I went to Burger King, I think it was Burger King, it might have been McDonald's, but there was like you could get a deal. I think it was number two, the the number two value meal. Let's say it was Burger King. You could get two um, cheeseburgers for a low price, and I'm like, ooh, I want that, you know, because if I get two, then it's more than one, and if I get two, then I have then I'm being really wise economically, you know. I'm gonna get the cheap version, and I'm gonna get two instead of one. See, I'm smart like that. I'm gonna get as much bang for my buck. I believe it was two. I believe it was number two. It was value meal number two, and it was two burgers with some fries and a drink, and I believe it was $2 too. So that's gonna date me a bit, you know. I believe it was just $2, but it doesn't really matter. Um, and I thought, that's what happens when you go to Burger King. You pay $2 and you get two burgers and you get a fries and a drink. That's what happens. That's what's been there, and I feel like I felt that that's what how it always was. I didn't know that wasn't how it always was. I just assumed that's what happens when you go to the mall or wherever there's a Burger King. And it sounds foolish and not interesting, but I find it very interesting. Um, that's not how it is necessarily, because there's all kinds of things that affect the market, and I don't think I would have appreciated that if I didn't work. When you're young and you're put in school and you're given this belief that you have to stay in school until you're, sometimes 17 or 18, sometimes 25, maybe more if you're like a doctor or you have a one of those professions. But when you're young, you don't understand, you know, what it's like working for a business, what it's like to provide a service or a product necessarily. There are some kids like AJ who start businesses early, and I think that's a great thing. I think kids working is great as long as they're not exploited, as long as they're not mistreated. I think if you're like five and above and you want to work, I think that's fantastic, and I think you should do it. And you should learn all the fantastic, beautiful lessons that come along with working, and you should find something you like doing. But yeah, I just thought those burgers were there. I took it for granted. And what I find now, I work at a pizza place and I do food prep, and I take the inventory that comes in a truck and I put it on the shelves in the walk-in cooler refrigerator or in the freezer or on a rack somewhere in the back if it's a dry good, and someone delivers a truck with a person driving that truck delivers that food to me, and they don't pack that food. Someone else in a warehouse somewhere packs that food, and they get their food from someone else. That warehouse is a distribution center, and the distribution center gets their food from someone else who packs the food in their own way. And those people might get food from someone else. So there's all these nodes on this electrical circuit or whatever metaphor you want to use. There's all these points of contact, and there's all this work that goes into um, everything that you purchase or you acquire in some way at a business. And I tell my manager to not order um, so much mozzarella cheese, or please don't order so many wings, or please don't do this, please don't do that, because what happens is if she orders too much, I have to throw away things. I have to throw away food that's old, bruised, molded, mildewed, what have you. And she has a problem with um, she wants to order so much, and we end up wasting some of the food. Now I could say, you do this or I'm out of here, or I could say, you know, please stop doing this. I could tell her every day, but I feel like that would be harassment, and I don't want to do that. But case in point, there's a problem with this business as far as um, wasting food, and it's not entirely in my power, although I have the power to influence, that problem for better or worse, and I am doing work to try to influence the problem for better. Um, and it's interesting, basically you have somebody that's ordering too much food, and there's what ends up happening is that a lot of food is wasted. So it's a resource ultimately. If we just didn't didn't talk about the money aspect of it, ultimately it's a resource that's wasted and it's unethical. I'm not judgmental of that, but I notice this problem and I know that it can be solved. But I know that it's not in my power necessarily, and it's something I don't really want to, put too much effort into to change. Um, but it's a problem. And why do I bring this up? It's not to castigate my boss, who is a daughter of God, just like I'm a son of God. you know. Um, it is to point to the fact that, say she were to deal with whatever emotional issue she had, um, we could have less of a problem in the area. Now, I'm sure the cook has issues, and the waiters have issues, and some of the other managers at the place have issues. Um, so there's all kinds of issues that could be solved. But let's say, all of these issues were solved. You'd have a better business, and you'd have a better, yeah, better functioning business. I feel like I'm making this video just to complain about my work, but the main point I really want to say is that human error plays a part in business. Human truth, I guess, would be the opposite to that, plays a part in business. And the other point that I would make, I don't think I'm making that point finely enough. I don't know how to make it any finer though. So I'll just leave that there. Um, but as far as the market is concerned, something that I see in every industry is that industries change based on new technology, based on advancements in some science or something, based on s- changes in a style or changes in interest of a customer base. So I think you might have to live a certain period of time to know that, or you have to be someone who engages in business, maybe has some proprietary role, like an owner or a manager, and plays a higher functioning, I don't know if that's a higher functioning, but if you own or manage a business, and you're the person that watches, how much money is coming in, and you make decisions based on how to bring, a product or a service to somebody, a customer, um, then you're going to see over time what works and what doesn't, what people want and what they don't want. And you'll find that if you don't give people what they want, then you're not going to be in business very long. And so what you do is you find what people want, and then you see if you can give that to them. Now, I'm not saying that you should only give people what they want, because sometimes people want something out of error. And so you wouldn't necessarily give it to them then. But having a business, operating a business, has a lot to do with knowing what people want. And so, I mean, you could try it. And I think there's an element of what you want too, which I don't really understand, because I've never had the courage to start my own thing. And I have little media projects here and there, and those are fun, and they're my passion. But um, I've never like went and done any of that full time and seen if there is a way where I could actually financially support myself doing those things. But I sort of believe, and I've been told at the very least, that there is a way. There is, in fact, a way to um, do what you want in the world, follow your passions, and be financially supported. So, what we're talking about is you do work, you provide a service or product or products, and you receive compensation. And I'm not necessarily saying that you charge people, that you have a price that you've determined, and then you say, this is how much you ought to give me, and then I will give you this. That would be a contractual arrangement. But I'm saying that it's possible, maybe. I haven't done it, but I know there may be one or two people listening who have, who go after what they desire, and then they find themselves, you know, remunerated, you know, financially supported. Um, and I think that's very interesting. So I want to tell you right now that Don't do what you want, because that would be a really bad thing, I think. But I will say that the component of somebody's desires is a big part in business. And if you don't believe that, watch trends. Like, I'm noticing now how banks are changing. I bank at Chase Bank. I may not be there too much longer, but when I started banking there 6 or 7 years ago, um, it looked like most banks look. And then suddenly, after COVID, they changed um, one of their bank setups, and they said it was a test bank, but it was a bank that I went to all the time. There were tellers normally at banks, and now suddenly they were there instead of like 7 people working at the bank, they downsized it to 2 or 3, and suddenly the ATM machine um, performed many more operations than it normally did. So the ATM machine was taking the place of tellers, and they felt that it was a faster way to do things. And a lot of the offices, I presume, in that brick and mortar uh, bank building were probably not used in the way that the space probably wasn't being utilized as well as it could have. But it was interesting how suddenly there was this major change. Instead of having tellers available, there was just 1 or 2 people available who could answer questions, and most of my banking was now to be done through that ATM, which performed at a higher level than it previously did. And that, to me, is a changing business trend. And when you watch Shark Tank on TV, or you listen to investors or whatever talk about the business that they're in, they're going to say they're gonna talk about business trends, and they're gonna be up to date on what the latest what have you is. They're gonna want to look for a product that they feel that people need. They're gonna want to look for something. They're gonna be looking for something that they feel people want, and they're gonna try to get it to them in a way that they think people will want to get it, so that they can make some money off of it. And that's the world of the market. That's investigating, knowing what people want, and trying to be a part of that situation through providing capital, investment, or if you want to be the person doing the direct work in creating that product, or assembling whatever you need to assemble to get that product to you know where it needs you know to its final prototype, or its final model that you can duplicate, so you can get the product out over and over, or a service or whatever. you know there's all these levels to the business. um, if you want to be involved in business, if you don't want to just be a manual labor, then you have to look at these things, and you have to ask yourself about these things. Again, I don't want to say that that's the only thing that you should concern yourself with, because chief amongst all of this, perhaps one of the most important things in any kind of business endeavor you do, is you have to ask the question: is this something that I want to do? Is this moral? Is this something that I want to do? Do I feel a passion inside of myself to bring this to the world? So maybe before any of these other questions I'm raising, you might want to ask yourself that. But in amongst all of that, I think it's really interesting that I make this fine point about human desire and that component in business. It's actually a significant component in business. And so what that means is, if people change, if people think differently, if people want different things, if they advance or digress, whatever is the opposite of advancement, You know, um, they're going to want different things. They're going to want new things. They're going to want things differently. They're going to want things brought to them differently. And what you find in Chase Bank or McDonald's or Burger King or housing, I'm looking at my housing complex right now, or automobiles, I'm in an automobile right now, is business people are always asking how to improve their product or service so that they can better get their product or service to people so that they can, in many instances, have more profit. But sometimes it's not just that. It's also, you know, wanting to do a good job, wanting to be an important member of society, and all of the those beautiful things. So, so what that means here, coming back to my original point, is that we, again, are this very important force in the whole thing, in everything, in business, in the environment. What we decide, what we think, what we feel has important repercussions in this universe that we inhabit. So, you could say, you can brush that off and say, well, so what? Everybody knows that, but I don't think so. I didn't know that. I thought the burgers just I thought the burgers were just there, you know? I thought that's how it was always done. And now that I think about it, that that value menu order isn't at Burger King anymore. It hasn't been there for years now. And so it was something that was there when I was there. And if you've lived, you know, past 10 years, you'll see menus at your favorite restaurants change all the time, or you'll have noticed, you know, some of your favorite businesses changing over time. Sometimes the sign changes, sometimes things inside the business changes. But everything changes. Your house changes, businesses change. You know what you get. You know, you might move to a new location. Businesses also move. Everything's always in this constant dynamic flow, and at the heart of all that, is the desire of the human being. And this is a system that God created, and it's very interesting. I find it very fascinating. I hope you do too. Thanks for watching.